Hey Ritu, welcome to our I2E Knowledge series. Thanks a lot for being here.
It's totally my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Maybe before we start, if you can give a small brief intro about yourself and Obino, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Ritu Srivastava. I'm the founder of Obino. We are a health and weight loss coaching application. We started in August 2012 and exited in September 2017 to strategic US based investors. I currently still helm the product at Obino and work with my investors while thinking of my next big startup idea.
So,
Does that work?
absolutely. So, maybe if we go back a little bit to your, when you started your journey, and maybe even a little bit beyond that, because I've read about your interesting story. Working at Wipro, the salesperson, and then the radio jockey, the stint that you had there, and eventually starting up. Maybe if you can, quickly take us through that starting journey about your professional life and then starting up and why you started up that story, that'd be great.
Sure. I think nobody really sets out to be an entrepreneur per se. It kind of just happens to you in your journey. And that's pretty much how it started with me. My family hails from northern India. My dad belongs to Lucknow, mom to Delhi, but he's an IPS officer. He was posted in Kerala all his life. So I'm a pseudo Malayali. I've been born and brought up in Kerala. And I did my education and schooling, everything there. Got placed in TAPI Management Institute, Manipal, in my MBA. And right out of college, got placed with Wipro as a strategic account sales manager. So I did sales for about a year. I couldn't deal with it. I sold laptops and Wipro licenses, and um, it was excellent grounding. It taught me the value of being a good salesperson, but it was tremendously hard, especially as the first job out of B school. That was when radio was starting to take off in a big way. And as you know, as you can see, I can't stop talking. So it seemed to be a really good fit. I reached out, auditioned, got offered a slot as a radio jockey in the primetime evening channel.
Right.
I worked with them for about a year and a half, and then I kind of constantly found myself drifting to the back of the scenes. And so I became an ad producer, then I became a show producer, then I became like the station producer, and became like a programming head for Red FM, which I had joined as a radio jockey.
Right.
Then I got hired away by the Midday Group, set up their station in Delhi, launched it, ran it for about a year. That was a tremendously exciting period.
Right.
We went from number 10 in the market to number 2 in the market in just under 9 months. So that was a hugely fascinating journey. Then shifted to telecom as a new product development manager. Launched a couple of products for them, did really well. Moved on to the brand team, and then I used to helm the Airtel mobile brand nationally.
Right.
So campaigns like "Har ek friend zaruri hota hai" and all of those.
Right.
I was lucky enough to work on those, so
Right.
it was a very, very exciting time. That was around when I had my baby. She's now 11. But at that point of time, I kind of felt that this wasn't quite the life that I had envisioned for myself, because it was a very hectic corporate schedule. I wasn't getting any chance to spend any time with her. And one of the biggest things that I struggled with during my pregnancy was that I've always been a fairly short, petite person. I put on a crazy amount of weight during my pregnancy.
Right.
And I think, like everybody who puts on weight and you haven't really been overweight before, you think, how hard can it be? I'll lose the weight, I'll go to the gym, I'll do some dieting. But it doesn't work. So, about 2.5 years after having the baby, I had lost about a kilo. And I was really frustrated and upset and temperamental. And that's when I actually met this dietitian who was very popular in Airtel circles. And I joined her, and in 3 months, I lost around 7 kilos of weight.
Right.
And I was kind of flabbergasted because I was the one doing all the work and paying ridiculous amounts of money. And the whole process of losing weight was kind of shrouded in mystery. Like, she would only tell you what you needed to know and do without ever explaining why she was telling you what she was telling you. So I think that's where the whole story of Obino really started for me. I said, control over your own health can't do this stuff.
Right.
It It's losing weight is not rocket science.
Right.
It's science. And applied to every single person with a little bit of tweaking, it will work. So, is there a way to make this much more accessible and empowering?
Right.
And that's really where Obino came about.
Awesome. So, about the starting story, I have two questions on that. One is, how did you find your co-founder? Who was your, co-founder? And the second thing is, how did you went about building your team? Who was your first hire? And how did that journey happen?
So, well, actually, I did go around looking for a tech co-founder because I'm a marketing person. I can't code.
Right.
And though I knew what I wanted to build, I knew it needed to be tech-driven.
Right.
And I was looking for a tech co-founder, and a friend of mine, a colleague, a Manav in Airtel, he said, there's another colleague of mine who is looking to start up, and why don't you just meet him and see what happens? And
Right.
he lined up a meeting for me with Yogesh, who is now my tech co-founder. And Yogesh is like the exact opposite of me. He's very quiet.
Right.
I can't stop talking, and he will not stop talking. He's kind of that person. So we met we were in Gurgaon at that time. We met at a barista, and I just kept speaking, and this is my idea, and this is what I want to do. And he just kept listening. And at the end of the whole thing, he's like, okay. And I'm like, okay, what? He's like, okay, let's do this. I was like, okay. Did I just get myself a new co-founder? I'm not too sure. But he's a phenomenal person, very
Right.
talented, very deeply technical. He has about 22, 23 years now of technical work ex, building large-scale B2C applications. He's worked for Airtel, worked for HCL, Aircel, all products that handle in excess of 1 million customers. So he knows how to build for scale.
Correct.
And constantly learning, evolving, very, very self-motivated.
Right.
Very nice person. So yeah,
Sure.
got lucky there.
So, once you had the co-founder, when you decided to, bring the team together, who was your first hire, and why did you specifically hire that particular role in person?
So our first hire was the tech folks.
Okay.
So we got a couple of early back-end tech folks to build out the product. And the next part-time hires were two dietitians who helped build out the calories database.
Right.
So those were our initial hires.
So-
The rest,
so-
everything we did after.
Now, if I were to rephrase, who was your first strategic hire or key hire? At what point did you bring in that person?
I don't think we really had any strategic or key hire per se.
Okay.
Because when we started off, I had pretty much the product and marketing and ops vertical covered.
Right.
And Yogesh had the technical, and he had good experience in handling manpower, so the HR vertical got covered.
Right.
Up till fairly ahead in our journey, we didn't hire any major leaders.
Right. Okay.
Like, we didn't bring in fact, that continued right throughout the life of Obino. We never brought in very senior people.
Okay.
Like the people who would have the most work ex in our company would be like 10 to 11 years maximum.
Okay.
And have about 20 years of work ex. There was
Got
a
it.
substantial gap in experience. So in fact, one of my most senior hires was this ex-Ola product guy called Pritesh. He had about 10, 11 years of work ex, but never hired many senior folks.
Fair enough. Okay. Now coming to the exit part of it. When did the conversation happen? How did it all started? Was it a strategic investment or a partnership that you first had, and then eventually, bringing it to an exit point? How did that happen? That journey happen?
So we met Roundglass in, I think, December 2015.
Okay.
And that was when we were raising our first round.
Right.
We'd already raised a little bit of money from Health Start, which was an incubator. And we were looking to raise like a seed round. And they came in with the whole concept of a health ecosystem. where they wanted to bring together disparate players in the preventive healthcare space to create an ecosystem that a user could enter.
Okay.
So that made sense as a concept to us. So in a sense, when we took monies from them, we knew it was a strategic hire because there was a larger purpose behind the investment.
Right.
And similarly, as we kind of grew and our trajectory kind of got more defined, so did Round Glass. They also grew with us, so to speak.
Okay.
And in September 2017, around early 2017, they indicated to us that they would be interested in the team joining them.
Right.
So it was more, I won't call it an acqui-hire because the product was fairly full-fledged by that time.
Right.
We had a very large team, we had a comparatively large team, we had about 70 people in place.
Right.
So it wasn't an acqui-hire, it was a proper acquisition, but they were very keen to have the team come in as
Right.
is and
Okay.
help build out their future products as well.
Understood.
Essentially, the whole ecosystem concept, they wanted us to bring it to life.
Got
So
it.
that made a lot of sense for us.
Right.
And it was kind of a continuation of the whole strategic journey.
Right.
And it was our first venture. So the founders said, this is a great opportunity.
Right.
So let's not miss it.
Awesome. So which brings to my next question. How does the future looks like? What are your next up? What are your plans for the next few years? What are you looking at? Uh, uh, I know that you have invested in a couple of companies as well. How does that fit in? Are you planning to planning to do more of an angel investing, helping other founders as well? How does that trajectory look like?
So life is fairly fluid at the moment.
Okay.
I'm still with our investors building product for them. And there's lots of exciting stuff happening there. So that's definitely something that's going on. I also want to possibly pursue a more active role in investing. I haven't
Okay.
done too much of that,
Right.
but I would be looking at upping my investments next year.
Okay.
This year has just been impossible to go out there, engage the pulse of the market, and
Right.
meet the right people.
Right.
I'd also like to work with some women-centered startups to mentor them. I'm already working with about 3 or 4 on a personal basis,
Got it.
but I'd like to perhaps get a little more involved and spend a little time volunteering with some accelerators that support women-led startups. Because I really believe there's some fantastic women founders out there who need a helping hand. And I had a lot of people who came forward to help me. So I really want to, pay that back.
Awesome.
Other than
So,
that, my husband has just started up.
okay.
So I'm going to stand now and watch him struggle.
Okay. Cool. And do you have a particular investment thesis per se that you look at when you look at a company or a founder?
I do actually. I haven't invested in too many companies,
Right.
but the companies that I do invest in, I look at people who are focused on the business fundamentals.
Okay.
There's a lot of focus today on the growth mindset in order to be able to attract larger rounds of funding. And whereas I do understand that startups are an asset class and you need to grow really fast in order to attract the next round of funding, unless your basic business fundamentals are in place, you very often will not survive long enough to raise those rounds.
Right.
So if you're just operating on the model of raising and burning
Right.
without looking at your unit economics, such that if the funding dries up tomorrow, can you survive through the lean period?
Right.
That's something that I believe has become more and more essential as the market's getting more and more volatile today.
Understood.
So it's a tricky space actually. You want to be growing fast enough
Right.
so that you can attract future funding, but you don't want to be growing so fast that if the funding stops, you die.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a tricky space.
Right. Awesome. So yeah. So before we come to the end of this segment, I have a couple of more questions for you. One is there one company that you wish you co-founded?
That's a tough one. Is there one company that I'd wished I'd co-founded? Actually, Actually, no one's ever really asked me that. So if I look at a company, that would be, I think Google. I mean, if you're being ambitious, let's be, let's be really
Sure.
ambitious.
Sure.
Because to be part of a vision to organize the world's information,
Right.
it doesn't get more audacious and
Than
cocky
that.
than that. So, yeah, it would have been fun to be part of that.
Awesome. Which is your favorite book?
Ooh, another tough one. So it's a very simple book that I read way back when I was pretty young.
Right.
It's by this pretty famous author called Khalil Gibran.
Okay.
It's called The Prophet. It's a collection of verses about various things in life, and he puts it in the form of very simple stories. And I've always found it very, very relevant.
Okay.
And I have a copy, and I keep going back to it once in a while.
Got it. Okay, so with that, we come to the end of our first segment, and the second segment is a photo work segment where we have a couple of photos of you. So maybe if you can go through the photos and tell us the memory that you have of that, that'd be great. So here is the first one.
Okay, that's my bratty little daughter, Mannat.
Okay.
She must have been, I think, about 5 or 6 in that photograph, and that's my mom and dad.
Right.
We had spent a day at some resort near Kerala where my parents are located.
Right.
And my dad was actually looking for some property also that he was interested in buying. So the whole day was just like tramping around, looking at property and chilling
Right.
out with parents. It was a good day.
So you spoke a little bit about the Kerala connection in the beginning. How long were you here in Kerala? You grew up your entire, and you did your
Born
schooling
and brought up.
on bottom.
Yep.
Okay. In Kerala. So,
So,
you do
I
understand a
even-
little bit of Mallu as well, Malayalam as well.
Oh, I do, and I can argue with auto drivers also. So
Right.
I can get the work done.
Awesome. Awesome. And okay, fair enough. Here is the second picture.
Yeah. So this is a lot of photographs of mine online are this one, because I had only one high-res photograph.
In fact, we
for
have the
all-
same one. Once this goes, public, it'll have this picture in the thumbnail. But yeah,
I have no photos. I don't photograph well. I have very few photos that are worth sharing. So I got this one photograph from a round glass event where I had spoken, and they had been kind enough to take a few photos. So I sweet talked the photographer into giving me one photo. That's all I have. It's everywhere.
And this is the first investment that you spoke about. The news about the
Yeah.
got it. And here's the third one.
Oh, yes. This is fairly recent. The guy in the check shirt behind me is actually a round glass team leader.
Okay.
And all the other folks around me are my coaches at round glass. As in, these were all Obino folks. This is the Obino office in Bombay. And I had gone in, and it was my birthday. So you can't see the cake, but it's somewhere there.
Okay.
And we had a cake cutting after this. All the guys are the male coaches. Most of the women are the nutritionists.
Right.
And Venu, who leads the coaching team now from Round Glass, because our merger has happened, he was also there. So he also joined in the cake cutting. A good day.
Awesome. And here is the last one.
Yes, this is the Three Musketeers. So Vishal is my husband and co-founder. He was fairly low-key in his involvement at Obino. He wasn't a executive, he was a non-executive director. So it was Yogesh and me mainly pulling the train. He used to overlook the finances and the funding because he's a banker.
Okay.
So he kept an eye on all of that.
Awesome. So I think with that we come to the end of that segment and move on to our final segment, which is a rapid fire round. We have a few questions for you. You can take 5-10 seconds to answer that. Nothing serious.
Okay.
So describe your startup in 2 words.
Weight loss.
Cool. Okay. If you could trade lives with one entrepreneur for a day, who would it be and why?
That would have to be Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay.
I think he's quite phenomenal, and I'd love to live his life for a day. Not after that day, but only for that day.
Sure. Um, so if you were to do, some venture, or if you were to start all over again, what would you do differently that you did with Obino?
I would focus more on growth or on profitability. On at Obino, I made the mistake of trying to straddle both,
Okay.
and that kind of it divided my attention. I should have focused either purely on growth or should have focused purely on profitability, and both directions would have changed my life. But I tried to straddle both, and that slowed me down. So
Got it.
I wouldn't make that mistake again.
Awesome. What do you think I'd be most surprised to find out about you?
That I am possibly one of the laziest people you could ever meet.
Okay.
So a friend of mine used to ask me during Obino days, he was like, how many hours a day do you work? And I said, 4, 5,
Okay.
maybe 6. And he was like, you're joking. And I was like, no, I when I work, I really focus and work, but I can't work for long periods of time.
Right.
In 5 hours, if I haven't done what I had to do, I kind of give up for the day, and I'm like, "हो गया, अब नहीं दिमाग
done.
काम कर रहा." It's done.
Got it. Okay. So this is the last question. What is your best memory associated with your organization, with Obino?
The best, there are so many of them. It's very, very hard to pick. But one of the nicest ones was when we moved to a really nice, swanky office. My mother came down and did the initial Grah Pravesh Puja with us.
Okay.
So that was very nice.
Awesome. Cool. So with that, we come to the end of our rapid fire segment as well. Before we break, we have a small ask for you. If you could recommend, one founder, one founder with exit would be great. To have a conversation for you to see, a conversation like this. If you could recommend one person, if you can give an intro, nothing like it, but if you could recommend one person to I2E knowledge series, who would that be?
100%. So I'll do the intro as well, and I'll browbeat him into doing the interview also for you.
Okay.
That would be Avinash Saurabh.
Okay.
He's the founder of Zujubi.
Okay.
And I'll introduce you guys on email. He also exited to Round Glass, and he's a good friend, and he's an amazing entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
I think you guys will really learn a lot from him.
Absolutely. So this is one of the perfect end to our segments that we had in a long time, with an intro and a recommendation. That's great. Ritu, it has been an absolute pleasure hosting you. Thanks a lot for spending time with us.
It was totally my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for calling me. It's a pleasure to get back into the startup scene. I'm itching to get back in, honestly.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.